This
something to-
conference will now be recorded.
Can I add, I'm not sure if it's already on the agenda somewhere, but at the last meeting, somebody from the city said something about there could be a lawsuit against the city. And I think there was a letter submitted by Mike who said, who disputed that. And I think it should be discussed by the task force. So I'd like to add that to the agenda as an item.
You're not, he can't do that, can he? Kim can't do.
Is there anyone here that would like to make a motion to add, make an addition, or?
To talk about the memorandum, that
Yeah.
I'm happy to make that motion, that's fine.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, where would we like to add it in the,
Okay. And
should we start off
We have to go in
talking about
favor.
it?
just as a quick point of clarification, I did send them the memo this afternoon with the intention that the task force would go into an executive session to discuss the legal opinions of the city. The city attorney is not actually here yet, so I think we'd have to delay that for a
Is the
few
attorney
minutes.
coming tonight?
Yes, Amanda is coming.
And we could have an executive session with her?
Yes,
Fabulous.
yeah.
And can I understand the reason for the executive session?
Give her a legal opinion.
Right. No, I saw the legal opinion.
No, the answer to the
Oh,
motion.
The first paragraph explains more or less legal advice on behalf of the city is not public record and would be only given in an executive session. More or less.
Because it's directly from the attorney?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she gave a legal opinion in a memorandum. It contradicts what somebody just said.
She has given a memorandum that was provided to me at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. It will go up on the website as soon as I am able to do so. It goes into the background of takings law, but does not go into specifics about this particular situation.
So it's irrelevant to this particular situation?
It's relevant, but it's not specific legal advice.
Okay. Well, somebody gave legal advice at the last meeting.
There was nobody,
No, there was no
attorney.
representative from the city attorney's office was at the last meeting.
Well, it was somebody who was not an attorney who told the task force they couldn't do something because it sounded like legal advice.
No,
no, it was
It was an opinion,
It was pure opinion.
yes.
it was a consideration that the task force should consider and possibly consider getting legal advice from the city attorney, which we now have done and will do in executive session.
So why can't the public know? I mean, if she made those points in public, why can't the city attorney verify it or disagree with it in public?
Mr. Lees, the city attorney has not arrived for the meeting yet. I would like to leave clarifications of this point and of the purpose of executive session up to her when she does arrive.
Okay.
And I am not in favor of having the city attorney discuss this with members of the public before the task force has even been briefed. I do think that just respecting that process is important so that we who are given the responsibility of acting out of our best understanding of the situation for the chair in order to lead that discussion. I think that our chairs should be able to have that discussion first. So I will withdraw my motion until we have that executive session.
Second.
No, I'm not seconding. I just would like to speak.
Okay, please do.
Is it time or is it, do you need something to withdraw your motion or just withdraw?
I just withdrew it, so I think it's done. Yeah.
So I'm on the planning commission and we obviously meet with the city attorneys from time to time. And one thing that we met about during the course of the interim zoning rewrite of the land development regulations is we met with Amanda for nearly all of one of our meetings, at least an hour and a half. And it was pretty clear from talking to her that nothing we were doing, and certainly nothing in this situation, is a legal taking. And to me, that's the only question here is it a legal taking or not?
Yeah.
And it's not. I mean, it's like, it's as not as you could possibly be. I mean, it's zoned residential, you know, by not responding to a request for a zoning change in no way makes the city subject to an illegal taking.
That's my understanding of the memorandum.
So, I mean, it really is as simple as that. I don't know that we need to go further into it even, you know. And I'm sure that's what Amanda's going to tell us because, you know, Amanda met with us over just exactly that issue. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So are there any other additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda items? Okay, so we'll move forward to number 2 is we can ask the public for any items related, not related to the agenda.
Well, just a quick thing, that was, I mean, she's lost. Yeah.
So you can ask them to turn on their cameras if they'd like to speak.
So are there people that would like to discuss something that's not directly related to the agenda this evening from the public? If so, can you turn on your camera and signal us?
I guess nobody.
I guess no one wants to speak, so,
So Kim,
yes.
Amanda Lafferty from the city attorney's office is here. So we actually would need the 2 motions that are on the piece of paper that I have in front of Isaac, someone to make those motions to be able to go into executive session to have that discussion with Amanda. And we will actually go down to the 2nd floor to the boardroom. It's called the boardroom. It's another conference room. But someone would need to make those motions to do so.
Go for it, Isaac, unless you want me to.
No,
Okay.
I don't think we should do this.
Should we do it right now? I mean, is
Is this one
it
Amanda's
because she's
available?
here, she's
Amanda is here.
on the
and,
clock?
My gut was that if this discussion was to be had, it would be good to have it at the beginning before any further discussion of options was had, just for
Okay.
clarification.
I agree.
Sounds good.
So I move that the task force make a specific finding that premature general public knowledge of the task force's discussions with the city's attorney regarding Burlington Airport's requested amendment of the land development regulations to change the zoning designation of 11 acres of land for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the task force would clearly place the task force and the city at a substantial disadvantage. And I need a second.
I'll second.
Then you call the question.
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
Well, no, I'd like to discuss.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I just think just exactly what I said earlier. It's just not necessary to do this. I mean,
I have some additional questions that have not been addressed yet
Would they be addressed in this meeting or here
with the attorney.
with the attorney?
it's nothing I want to do. I just, to me, she's going to tell us that it's not a taking, and I just
I
think
can't hear you.
she's going to tell us that it's not a taking, and I think it just makes us look bad to go into executive session and just a task force. And you know, a lot of people are looking at us to be as transparent as possible and as open to public input as possible, particularly from the neighborhood. So I think going into executive session is, I mean, although it may be formally correct, I think is not, in terms of the way the public views us, is not a good idea.
I'd have to say, I'm not sure I don't agree because we are the ones that asked to have the input from the city attorney because it's been brought up as a possibility that this could be used as a taking. And I respect the fact that you've had similar conversations with the Development Review Board, but I haven't. So even if it takes 10 minutes, I'd still think it's important that we asked for this information. She came here and we should go ahead and and John also has further questions. So I would say I'm not in agreement on this one, Paul.
And just for clarifying, she's not willing to speak with us outside of executive session?
Correct.
Correct. So this is the only option for,
Apart from the memo that was already provided, which is of public record and just
Well,
came late in the day today. So
I don't see the harm, I think, in talking to her. And I think that the question that I would have is if we were to do something like zone at public park, which is going beyond just leaving it as is, if that is something, if she has an opinion on that, which I don't think was specifically provided in that memo. So I don't have an issue with it. I understand where you're coming from transparency's sake, but if she's not willing to speak to us otherwise.
It's not like we can't pass that information on to the public as to.
no, anything that is said in executive session is confidential. Because it's setting up attorney-client privilege between the task force and the city attorney, and no individual member of the task force has the right to waive that attorney-client privilege.
Okay.
But we can talk about her memorandum.
Yes, anything in the memorandum that was
I
provided.
assume it's going to be related to that also.
Yes,
So I assume that that's the whole purpose of it. So it's going to be based on that. So I don't think that we're really being secretive. We're just getting clarification.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I did.
the motion is on the table. You just need to
Okay,
call
do
the vote.
we have a second?
We did. John did.
Do we want to vote?
So we're discussing.
Before you vote, can I ask a question?
After we.
I
vote.
think after would be.
Well,
appropriate. It's,
I
I mean,
I'm
because
going
this
to
is
ask a
actually,
question about the vote after the vote is taken.
I think that we're discussing what we're going to be doing. So we'll let you know what the
I
vote
just
is.
want to understand the motion. It sounds like the motion is to go into executive session so that you can discuss a change. If I heard it correctly, a change in the zoning.
No,
No.
No,
Didn't
I'll
you
read
get
it.
what was read?
It's simply that
It's a
we
clarification.
need to discuss with the city attorney the Burlington Airport's requested amendment of the land development regulations to change the zoning designation of 11 acres of land. So we know all about the requested change. That's nothing new. For the purpose of providing, this is what we're going to be getting, professional legal services.
All right, but so you can't go into executive session to discuss keeping the zoning the same.
Right, no.
That's not what we're doing.
no, nor are we interested in doing that necessarily. We haven't decided yet.
There's also, there's a second motion that also has to follow, but the first is the request to get legal advice, which is what's on the table now.
Are we ready to vote? We all vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then I have,
Any opposed?
Any opposing?
Deny, you have to also ask anybody again.
Anyone?
No, I didn't
She
do
does, she
that.
has to oppose.
I'm
Yep.
able to-
I voted no.
so having so found, I now move that the task force enter into executive session to consider confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the task force and inviting in Kelsey Peterson, Paul Connor, and Amanda Lafferty.
Motion,
That was the
That
motion.
was
we
the
used.
motion, I second.
second. All in favor?
I,
Opposed?
No.
you were no too, I think.
no, it was just a silent.
Yes,
Oh, any abstentions then?
are you abstaining?
Mhm.
Okay.
So the motion having passed, we will now enter executive session. For the members of the public, we will keep the go-to meeting going, but we will be muted and the camera will be off. The task force will actually be leaving this room and going to another room. The intention is to be back in about half an hour, so it's, call it 7:50. So you could either stay on the line or return to this go-to meeting link at 7:50, and we will recommence this meeting in public session at that time.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, after a recess to be in executive session, we are returning to the agenda. Welcome back to anybody who's stuck with us all this time. I think on the agenda, we're ready for number 3.
Yes.
So within the agenda, we had a packet with, I think, 3 different forms from Nick Longo, the acting director of the airport, that I think he felt would answer some of the questions that he had heard as he listened to us in the last couple of meetings.
Yep. And that is the extent of number 3. The brief staff report about the documents provided by the airport was simply that the airport has provided documents that after they watched the recordings of other meetings and heard a few questions about the airport's governance structure, the role of the FAA, things like that, and they provided 3 documents that I have provided in this packet. I know nothing more than the documents exist, and I've provided them from the airport, and that the airport has provided them in response to previous task force discussions and/or public comment.
So did anyone have any comments or things that they found of note that they wanted to speak to in those particular documents?
Yeah, I would just point out, just point out that the airport's long-term plans have been clarified with the map that they provided that shows extensive development in the housing lots in question. So it sort of calls into question their original presentation, which made it seem like it was about this one building, when clearly there's a long-term plan to develop what looks like about maybe half of the lots. So just throwing that out there, they've clarified their intentions.
I have to say that my map is so
I know, it's
illegible. I have no
it's gotta be
idea.
in color.
I don't have any idea if you're right or wrong on that.
Yeah, you got to see it in color, but essentially it shows the relocated airport drive, and then everything on the airport side of the new airport drive, which has shifted significantly towards the neighborhood, is
You're
developed.
talking about Airport Parkway or Airport
Airport
Drive?
Parkway is, I
Sorry.
think, what he means.
Yeah, it's hard. I couldn't. I can't read the thing, but yeah.
Everything is called
Airport
airport.
Parkway.
Colors.
Okay, so that's right here.
So that's really what we're up against. That's the real proposal.
Color you use? No.
Okay.
Yep.
Does anybody have any comments on that, Carmen, John?
No, he's just letting me look at his copy because
He's
it
got
is in
colors.
color. He has color.
Do you want color?
So the little blocks that seem to be houses, are they existing houses that they assume will be gone? Or
I don't know the,
They are existing houses.
they are existing? Thank
There
you
are-
very
yeah,
much.
there are
Because they
houses.
show curvy, I mean, they show Picard Circle with houses that are no longer there. So I
Right.
was just, I don't think there are houses on the north side of Airport Parkway, right?
I'm not sure that the house graphics are completely updated.
Yeah, I don't think so. I just wanted to.
Well, gee, thanks.
So anyway,
The only thing that I saw, he sent us the next one I think is a memo talking about Burlington International's airport of the master plan. And basically, he's just mentioning all the people that had input into the master plan. None of which were people from the neighborhood, from what I could tell.
No, it's,
And then the next one, I guess he was telling us the chain of command.
yeah, he has the right to sign permits. It's not relevant to the questions that were put forward.
Right, but I think we did bring up the fact that perhaps the city council isn't really driving this request, but it's coming from Roe and Nick. So I think
Yeah,
I think
no,
that's
I see
perhaps
that.
why he put that in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's true.
I think it's political change, probably.
Yeah,
Say that again, Paul?
I think if there was a political change in Burlington, it would probably withdraw the request.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind the progressives wouldn't have put this forward.
Can you say that again?
The progressives would not have put this forward. This is the Democrats and the mayor in Burlington.
So we have,
And you're referring to the request itself when you say that.
Well, I'm saying that this is likely being driven in part by the mayor who,
Okay.
and that if it were not that mayor, I don't think it would be happening.
So I do have a question because the technical advisory committee is listed in the process for developing the airport master plan. And Carmen, you were a member of that technical advisory committee. Was there a discussion?
There was something that I've made a big note here that, and I also think that there was also, it was pretty farcical, where they were supposed to have public input. And the way those meetings were managed, where they were set up with stations, and there was never any gathering of a group together, so nobody could ever have any kind of a discussion of any kind. It was really a way to manage people and say you had done this without ever giving any of us a real opportunity.
I think that's
And I think
important
that's the history.
to be putting into the record.
And he also, it also goes like this technical advisory committee, and that was very farcical. It was the same kind of thing. There was always an agenda created by the head of the airport. And that was, you went through it step by step, and it was never anything that had anything to do with.
There was no
much of
visioning
anything.
process
No,
or
I felt
no
like it
bidding
was just
process.
fulfilling a requirement that they had to go through for the FAA. They really didn't want any community input.
Yeah.
And I feel comfortable saying that.
So you were basically an audience member receiving passively the information that was being presented.
And it was
to you.
very similar to their unwillingness to participate in Synapse. There was somebody from the airport commission who was a Burlington resident, and as I said, he slept through the meetings. And it was really that was just filling a requirement that somebody attend, but nobody ever had any input in it. And then when we suggested that we create a noise committee, when we suggested they create a noise committee, the airport took it upon itself to create what they call the sound committee, and it was the same kind of whole farcical thing as this. So he just controlled anything that had anything to do with input from the community. And so it was never really anything. It was very autocratic.
And I do recall sitting in on some of those meetings, and I do recall our planning and zoning director expressing, I think, priorities of our city, as well as some questions that indicated some concerns. And I'm not sure he ever received full responses to those. So I think this is important that we respond, to this memo provided by the airport. I agree with you, Carmen. It has not been satisfactory.
Pardon me?
It has not been satisfactory
Absolutely not.
level
Not
of
at all.
public participation.
And
and I think going forward, it may behoove Nick Longo to see that the way these things were handled in the past is not going to be acceptable to the members of the community going forward.
he tried to put on a very, he'd have food, he'd have like all these lovely charts. You'd go and talk to somebody who was in charge of the chart, and you would never, that was it. So you went from station to station, so it was just a way of controlling the crowd.
Right.
So there was never
And then
really
with
any.
forms that you could fill out.
Right, and yes, then you never got any results of any of that paper.
Right.
So, no, was a master of manipulating, getting what he wanted out of everything. And, and I, as a member, felt a little silly in a way that I what am I doing this for? But I would go, but you never really saw anything come of anything he did. In terms of our community, it was always the airport.
Okay, any further comments on our information from Mr. Longo? Let's move on to number 4, discussion of the draft recommendation memos with Randy Saxton, who's still here, waiting for us.
We just watched Jeopardy.
I don't think so. Hello, Brandy.
Hello. So my suggestion is to start by seeing if you guys have any questions or points of clarification on the 3 options presented here. And we can work through those if you do. And then my suggestion would be that you take a straw poll of where the group is, and we figure out which of these options seems to have the majority support, that we can move forward with further refining. Does that seem like, I know that we're further into the meeting than we had planned to be when we put together the agenda, so does that seem like it's still going to work?
Yeah, sounds great to me. Everybody,
I think we're all
on board to look at these 3.
I think we've all
Yeah,
also,
Or
we're also
discuss
all
them.
familiar with them also.
yeah. I mean, I was wondering if it's to go around and see where they landed with us. And that sort of would give us an idea where people are at simultaneously, unless we wanted to ask direct questions. But
That's all I would suggest. If anyone has any clarifying questions about anything that was included, any facts, any statements, anything else that would affect what your opinion might be, that maybe do those sort of more neutral questions first and then work on the.
So I have a question. One of the things that you mentioned in the defer memo, Brandy, is how you really don't want to have an incremental approach. So I guess one question I have a couple other questions on this too, but is, so how do you prevent an incremental approach? I mean, if the airport keeps coming with little blocks, I mean, you prevent it by saying, okay, do you prevent it through the comprehensive plan? Do you prevent it by saying, we won't consider these small blocks, we will only consider?
Right. The city is under no obligation to consider a rezoning request that comes from any property owner, unless that zoning request comes with a petition. There's a process in statute for petitioning a zoning change that you would have to do something about. But if it doesn't come with such a petition, which I assume the airport would be hard pressed to come up with, because it does require a fairly substantial percentage of the voters to sign on, then the city is under no obligation to do anything. So a property owner can ask as much as they want about having their property rezoned. There's no obligation to act. So I guess that's my response, is they can ask and the city could ignore.
I have a question. Yeah. So I am looking under the recommended action part of option 1. And you said, this is your narrative here. Further, the task force recommends that if a rezoning is to be considered at a future time, that all the noise lands be redressed in a single comprehensive process. I was curious if we could say that all of the noise lands and the airport zoned lands be considered or addressed in a single comprehensive process.
So you want to throw in a rezoning of, or a changes to the existing airport zoning district?
I want the planning commission to be able to look at all of the airport property, including what is currently developed, what is currently zoned airport and not developed, and what is currently zoned R4, the noise lands, as you call them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a possible amendment?
You certainly could make such a recommendation. I think I wouldn't sort of jump into doing amendments on these individually until we decide you guys decide which one of these you want to work on, essentially, and work from. But that certainly is something that could be on the table.
Thank you.
So I have a question between defer and deny.
Mm-hmm.
So if we did defer, is that more likely to be able to create a process within the city for ongoing communication with the neighborhood? Whereas deny can be just sort of, okay, we did our part. Now let's wait around till the airport brings it up again.
I don't think that either of them sort of set a direction in terms of further planning work with the neighborhood. The distinction that I see between defer and deny is that defer is that there is no decision made on the merits of the argument in either direction. Whereas the deny is you are actually considering the question and recommending a no. So the deferral doesn't engage the question, essentially.
The deferral sets the airport up to get absolutely everything it wants. Because they just showed us the whole package. It shows that they would love to do it all in one chunk. They would love for us to have to work on a plan, and then we're gonna have to fight that, and the weight's gonna be against the neighborhood as usual. And so I see the deferral as very much opening the door to a process, especially since we haven't weighed in, where it has a very strong likelihood to lead to everything that the airport wants. And so,
Or it would lead to a process that rethinks the current layout of the airport property. It's been in the press that general aviation tenants are very unhappy with the current layout and plans. I find that to just be worthy of consideration. I think that it's something that we should consider, whether it be under the defer or deny, we can talk about. But I think that when we have a neighborhood that is directly impacted by the airport plans, whether it's what is already developed or within the airport zone, that definitely plays a role with regard to what they would like to put outside of that zone or add on to that zone by having us rezone some residential for lots. So that's the purpose of my question. That's the reason for my question.
are you thinking that there's a possibility that there would be some sort of contraction in the airport, or I'm not, because the general aviation conflict is.
I'm not sure there's really a logical plan at the airport right now.
Right. Yeah. I know. I completely agree with you.
If you have longstanding tenants up in arms about their future being in jeopardy and not being heard by the airport director, all of this publicly reported on, that suggests to me that Burlington is not doing a very good job in managing the airport. That suggests to me that there needs to be more eyes on this plan and more input. And I see no reason why South Burlington should not be those eyes and the source of input.
Yeah, no, I think the thing that concerns me, I think it's specifically about making the defer decision, because we're not putting our foot down about saying, hey, wait, no. And then maybe we could have some ideas about the need to engage with the neighborhood in a comprehensive plan that relates to this land. But I think what was in that defer memo was sort of like, we believe this should be taken up all at once. You know what I mean? That's really leading down a specific, again, another rezoning process. And given the power imbalances, given the extreme power imbalances, and the fact that you need private to fight it for real, you need private people to show up, and that takes so much work. And so I'm just really hesitant to open the door to processes when there's such a power imbalance. And I think by denying, and then we can have some language about the neighborhood and the comprehensive plan, but by denying, we're taking a much stronger position.
I completely agree. And politically,
Yeah.
it's a smart decision. I'm
Yeah.
with you on that.
Yeah.
But in any decision, I do not want us to only be limiting future discussions to the noise lands. I want those future discussions to include the entire airport property, including what is currently zoned airport.
I think
And
that's,
so
I
is
think
there-
that's smart.
Is there a way to, in a denial, to say, if you ever come back with this, we need to see documentation of how all of your land is being used that is presently, I don't know, zoned commercial or whatever it is, and see why this piece seems to have to fit in when you haven't, when we haven't learned what you're making use of with the land that you already have and you're using.
Well, we have those tools, at our disposal. Those are tools that I've been trying to use over the past couple weeks. And we know where the buildings are. We know what land is off bounds for development. In fact, we have someone here who's already on the airport side put together a graph for us to consider about the acres that are developable and not developable. And so people are looking at it based on what exists. So we also have Beta's plans, which are currently before our development review board. And so I've been able to study those. And I think that there is a valid reason for more eyes to be looking at the layout of that general aviation part of the airport.
And what about, it almost feels like they're playing with Legos, like they just keep trying to move things around, but they aren't clear to the community that they're impacting what the whole design has to be to make it fit in and to impact the neighborhood as little as possible.
That's right.
It feels like playing with Legos, and I feel like it's time to if you're going to deny, to say, we need to have a clear understanding of what the whole use of all of your land is and what is intended for it, or it's going to keep coming this hodgepodge.
And I think that it's really important for us in our, which should be a strong response,
And that would
to really point to our comprehensive plan, which makes it clear that even though we don't have synapse integrated in our comprehensive plan, we have clearly stated, if you go into the northwest quadrant and you read through, and it was in our last, it was either March 3rd or March 17th packet, you saw the relevant sections of the comprehensive plan, that any airport land abutting the airport, abutting our Chamberlain neighborhood, has to be well integrated. It cannot encroach on those residents. That is clear. There's no ambiguity about that. Whereas the industrial uses are to be over off of Williston Road, which is in the northeast quadrant. It's very clearly, laid out in our comprehensive plan. So for them to ask us to bring those industrial uses over to the area of the airport where there has to be that integration and that sensitivity towards our residents, they have to make a better case than this.
Absolutely. And then the environmental possibilities with two brooks being there and some wetlands and there's all sorts of reasons besides the people, which has to be the priority. It really does. It has to be that. We haven't heard anybody that lives in that area speak in favor of this. And I think we have a responsibility to them to say, this is a bad idea some other time.
Not in our lifetimes.
And I have been looking at the inventory just to come back to the request for inventory. And I think that, did you include that MOU appendix of the airport lessees or addresses inside and outside of the fence?
I am now not remembering. It's the list of addresses.
And I couldn't open everything. Yes, the list of
Yeah.
addresses.
I will double check, and if I didn't, I'll provide it tomorrow morning.
Yeah, because I've looked at those addresses. And I'm specifically talking about the addresses on Valley Road and on Williston Road specifically.
Mhm.
And they are not all airport related.
You mean the business?
The businesses, the commercial businesses.
Most of them aren't really.
And if the airport is claiming a lack of land for airport uses, well, let's take a look at their existing properties and speak about it. I think it deserves more thought and careful thought. If we are to give up, that's what they're asking us, that careful balance between the residential and the airport, right? That careful balance right now. And for them to ask for us to bring the industrial side over, they haven't made a case that I am convinced of.
The one I think clarification that I would want to make is that I wouldn't want us to be saying deny because you didn't make a good enough case, and in future when you make plans we want our residents involved. I think we want to say deny, this is a bad plan, this is inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood, this will never be a good plan. And we feel that the airport master planning process and these other processes have systemically left out the voice of the community, that they're focused very narrowly on airport economic concerns and leave out all quality of life considerations for area residents. And that needs to change, sort of separate from, like that can be part of our reasoning for the denial.
Definitely.
But we need to be very clear, I think, that an airport use of this property is inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. Under no circumstances is it a good idea.
But I don't want us to limit it to those noise lands. I
That
want
is
us to look at the entire airport.
And I think this is a leverage we have to get them to be more orderly in what they're trying to do with everything that they own. It's
What we
really
have
the
been
only
reading in-
leverage we have. Because it's a request that we can deny, but we can say, until you can show us what you're doing with everything that you own and show that you have a plan that's impacting as few people as possible, we cannot go forward with any requests from you.
And are allowing their current airport-related tenants to thrive.
Right.
I'm not convinced of that either, reading the press.
Right.
So the until, and so I just want to get really dialed in.
And I think you're good at the details.
Yeah, so when you say until, there's sort of, again, there's a door opening. I think we need to be very clear. The lots that are required for noise mitigation should not be converted to industrial or airport related uses. That's inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. Airport plans in general, not necessarily relating to these lands, also need to take into account the neighborhood and their decisions. But I just want to make sure we're really slamming that door shut on these lots, and then also making comments on top of that about sort of the general relationship.
And I would say industrial uses, because you're going to have the FAA coming back and saying, yes, this is for airport use. So
Yes.
it's because they're moving their industrial uses to the residential side of the airport. So we have to
Plus,
say
there's
airport industrial.
They're sacrificing some old growth trees there too, to do that. And what filters all of this crap from the airport exhaust and everything? Trees, green space. So I think
Yeah.
we need to, if anything, encourage that part
Yeah.
be enlarged, to have more of that, so that they can say, yes, we're trying to buffer the neighborhood, but we can see what we can find over here where we're already smashing it all up. You know, where they have had a quarry there, for God's sakes. It's in that Valley Road area. That was I used to hear dynamite going off. It's an real industrial area. And that's, if you're going to be building industry, that's what you need to use, as much of that. Use it all up, but it's already zoned for you. Just play with your Legos there.
The planning commission is just starting work on the next comprehensive plan. And we hope to have it done by February of 2024. And, you know, of course, we have the neighborhood report. So
And
we're-
that's
we're
the
starting
South
that.
Burlington plan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Just as a very quick point of clarification, we are legally required to have it done by February of 2024. That is not, that's not a hope or a goal. That is a legal requirement, and there's a lot of
So
bad.
that you could do it beforehand.
You have
Yes,
less
the
than
goal-
a year to finish the comprehensive plan?
2024.
2024, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
The
good.
goal is for that to be in the sort of hearings and approval process with the planning commission and then the city council by approximately September of 2023. Just for
So
timeline.
September of next year
Yes,
for that step.
yes. So do we have more questions for Brandy on the work that she's presented for us at this point? On the 3 different proposals?
Sort of feels like we're narrowing to a.
Or are we ready to discuss how, kind of go around like Isaac said and discuss?
Why don't we just vote?
You wanted to do that 2 weeks ago and you're still here.
I'd say we do a round robin and get comments, see where people's heads are at, make sure we're on the same page.
You want to start with John?
I think that her first recommendation struck me as the reason that have to go. I don't agree with re-looking at the entire airport. We, over the years, approved of their usage in various ways as they came up. So it seems a little odd to say that they did it wrong when we have ample opportunity to weigh in on it. Because if it's part of South Burlington, we had involvement with that. That being said, I do believe that they should include the new noise abatement land they took. It's part of a overall package, not just look at parcel by parcel. But I also think that we need to continue to clarify the comprehensive plan for this area, and that I think is the reason why we say no.
Do the last sentence again, John, sorry.
That's why we say no, not now.
No before, that's why we say no, not now.
Because the comprehensive plan obviously does need to have some adjustment based on the discussions that have gone on since the last time we generated it. We're starting that process again. I just think timing wise, it's better to include all the land and then do it after the comprehensive plan is settled. And I think it'll be very clear what the city wants to do with that region of the town.
Thank you.
Well, I think you all know how I really said what I think it should be denied. And I think it should be denied based on the amount of information we have about how they use their whole property, which has an impact on the community. So I think it's just denied for now. And then if they take any information from us, it should be the kind of stuff like we don't know enough to feel like this is any time to approve anything like this. And I agree that we have to have the comprehensive plan for the community done before we entertain anything that's going to have this big an impact on a neighborhood, especially a neighborhood that's kind of off to the side and often forgotten. And so I think it's time to bring it up in the forefront through this process to the needs of it. Because it is an opportunity in a way by denying it to say what we need to as that part of our community. Go ahead, Kim. I've said it all. I talk a lot.
Yeah, I guess no, I don't guess. I also feel that we should deny. And part of that is, although we don't have the comprehensive plan, the synapse wasn't ever updated, they can keep bringing this back. So I think if we deny, and as Isaac is saying, we're very firm about why we're denying, and we, that's something that we have to decide. Are we actually going to say, and don't ever bother to darken our doors again, or these are the reasons we're denying, and it's so to defer is really, to me, keeping the door open at this point, and the door isn't open in my mind. It may be when somebody else is looking at it down the road, it's, this is how it works, right? That's how zoning works. So yes, I feel like we should probably work on it, whichever thing we decide on, we need to work on getting the verbiage that's more in line with how we feel and the input that we've had from you know, as you said before, there's been nobody who's been saying, yes, this is a good idea. Let's put the snow removal stuff over there. No, you know, all the input that we've had, and we're going to have more opportunities to hear from the neighborhoods. So, yes. Paul.
Deny for me. And I just recently heard Megan's argument about moving the industrial to the residential side of the airport. Hadn't thought about that before, but that's certainly a good argument for not doing this. Several years ago, when the lawsuit came out, started between South Burlington and Burlington, we did an appraisal of the airport, and it really turned out to be an industrial park. I mean, there's a lot of businesses and industry that are part of the airport grounds, many of whom have nothing to do at all with the airport. All that area on Williston Road where the, what is it? It's like a slate company, you know, concrete and building materials and stuff. That's owned by the airport. Where the vacuum cleaner shop is, that's owned by the airport. There's all kinds of things like that that are airport things. And
That are tenants.
that are tenants, yeah,
Yeah.
that make an enormous amount of money for the city of Burlington, really. So, you know, we in South Burlington have been sort of the stepchildren or something to the airport for years now. You know, it's their airport built on our property. So, so I hope this is a start. I hope this is a start in defending, you know, South Burlington. I also have to say, I think it's really political, you know, as you mentioned, with the change in mayor, progressives in Burlington. Same thing in DC with the F-35s. I mean, Pat Leahy will be gone, you know, at some point Bernie Sanders will be, you know, maybe the support won't be there for the F-35s here. And that could change everything dramatically in a matter of months.
I wonder if Bernie's going to support them once Pat Leahy's retired.
The what?
I wonder if Bernie will continue to support them once Patrick Leahy has retired.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the one who originally said, we can't have Gatling guns being made here in Burlington
Yeah.
from GE.
Nice.
So,
Sorry.
you know, changes like that can come in the future. You know, it's not, doesn't have to be bleak like it is to us now all the time. And, you know, maintaining that property as residential, I think when we need affordable housing the way we do is some good policy for South Burlington.
Thank you. Isaac?
Yeah, so I'm for deny, and I just had another reason why I think that's a really good direction to go. And that's because if we defer, we are deferring to the comprehensive plan. We're saying, go figure that out, let us know what you decide. If we deny, we are informing the comprehensive plan and thereby give the neighborhood a much stronger voice, because we have heard plenty and the neighborhood's plenty. It's very clear that they don't want this. And so I think that by denying, we are giving the neighborhood a voice immediately prior to the development of the comprehensive plan, thereby influencing it. And I do think that now that the city has introduced that planning document that shows the rerouting of the road, which goes right through that wooded area, by the way, it pushes out and closer to the neighborhood. And I think that we can probably comment on that document that was submitted to us and say, hey, I think we're not on board with this at all, the whole plan that's being put forward, and that should inform the comprehensive plan. And so I just think by denying, we can inform the comprehensive plan and we can decide in the denial exactly how that looks. But I think it should be a denial on the basis of it being inconsistent, that we do not need further information to make that decision. So
Just a quick clarification for my own sake. The plan, what that was submitted by the airport?
yes,
It's an excerpt from the airport's master plan. It's not a document produced by the city of Burlington, the South Burlington.
oh, I didn't intend to say that.
Okay.
Yes, the airport produced
The
that,
airport's
and it
master
was
plan.
put
Yeah.
into our,
Yes,
that's
great.
good.
Well, since, like I said, since our last meeting, I've been very busy. I have had lots of meetings. I've asked for documents. I have driven around and looked. And there are various reasons why I would be in favor of denying. And as Brandy said, we have to back it up. And so I'm not yet done backing it up, but here are my preliminary reasons. Comprehensive plan. This is a residential side of the airport. The comprehensive plan makes it clear that the northeast quadrant is where the industrial uses should be. Driving over to that northeast quadrant side of the airport, I see commercial uses that are not airport related, that use acres, that should be considered, I think, fair game for the needs, which I consider to be real, of the general aviation community, as well as potential the snow removal equipment. I take Nick at his word that he needs a better storage area for that equipment. I also read in the paper that general aviation needs also better storage and better facilities. Going and looking at what facilities exist on the industrial side of that airport, I believe that there is enough land there at this current time for the needs that I have been made aware of. If that includes the 3 hangars and the snow removal equipment that Nick provided on his conceptual plan, I can see that being possible over with reconception of that industrial side in the northeast quadrant. Another reason why I am opposed is because we have seen, I've been on the council a long time, and we have seen that contour, that 65 DNL contour has gone out and gone back in. And I very much spent a lot of energy and time in order to protect the Kirby cottages from being demolished. And I just felt so gratified when Beta said, we need housing for our employees. We're going to buy those Kirby cottages. I am sad that they are no longer affordable. We had to break the affordability covenants on them because the airport got ahead of us. But I am looking at the current land that is sitting vacant and that is sitting outside of that 65 to 70 DNL line that could be potentially redeveloped into residential. And if you talk to anybody in business these days, housing is the #1 priority that we need to be investing in. There are lands sitting there that are vacant, where new homes could be built, just like Beta bought those Kirby cottages. And because we know that the activity on that airfield could change again, I believe that we have to maintain the need for residential foremost in our minds as South Burlington planners. It serves our residents, it serves our schools, it serves our businesses. And it is something that is very much compatible with the quality of life. We have lost so much. And as I said to you before, I went around door to door as I was campaigning for re-election. And the biggest thing I heard that breaks my heart, and has broken my heart since I first ran for city council in 2008 to stop this madness of tearing down our homes, is that there is a loss of neighborhood. There's a loss of feeling of belonging to a community. And so all of those roads, and Carmen, you live on one, Elizabeth, Patrick, Delaware, he's not going to move. The plan shows he's moving, but he's not going to move. Maryland, all of these roads have residents who have lives, who are invested in their lives, who have invested in their homes, who want to have a neighborhood. And I believe that as the South Burlington planning bodies, we need to invest in them. That is what they asked me to do as I went door to door. And so as someone who believes that that is my role, that's my most important reason for proposing that we deny. But I do come back to the inventory. There is land.
May I ask a question before we go back and go on to the next, to ending the meeting? is all of the land on Williston Road from Pete's RV down, is that all airport?
There's a
property?
little bit of in and out, but a lot of it is.
Where that
airport land.
old motel used to be, is that, does the airport own that, the vacant lot? Where they tore down a motel, and then next to it is the bottle redemption place, I don't know if you know that.
Oh,
Antique and
I'm not
some
sure
antique
about
store.
that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They don't own the building.
Oh, I
where,
know.
None of them own those buildings.
They,
They don't own.
The airport doesn't own the buildings.
I have the addresses, and I can get them.
The only one I know for sure is the building that Mirabelle's Bakery is in. That's an area where airport property touches Williston
And
Road.
what about Pet Food Warehouse?
No, that building is not where Earl's used to be.
That's, who
That-
owns that?
I don't know who owns it, but it's not the airport.
But that isn't why Earl's moved?
No, I don't think so. no.
So
But
I,
don't know.
yeah,
I'm not sure about that, but.
I'm pretty sure that that's not airport, that building.
yeah, what we have here is 3060 Williston Road, 3062 Williston Road, 3064 Williston Road, 3090 Williston Road, and 4016 EX Williston Road.
Okay.
None of that is being used for airport-related
But
commercial
it's all
activity.
owned by the airport.
It is all owned by the airport.
Those ones in the 3060s, that's the one where Vacuum City,
The
Mirabelle,
3090 is where Vacuum City is, I think, down that line.
3060.
3060.
Oh, it's 3060, so then where's 3090 beyond that? Is that Pete's RV?
No, Peace RV is the 4016 EX.
Oh, it's that
Williston
stone
Road.
place where they,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know by name. It's where they sell patio wear. Okay, I get it now. I'm trying to envision how much of that land they own. They own a lot.
Also keep in mind, we always say the airport, but it's not, it's the city of Burlington. And all of the employees of the airport are Burlington city employees.
Technically.
But no, it's, the airport's a cash cow for Burlington. The money flows into Burlington from all those
So
sources.
really the only control we have over stuff is really through zoning. Okay, that's all. I would just wanted to make sure I really, because I feel like things make me confused and then I say, well, it seems like it's clearer than that. And I really do see it clearly. Okay.
And I do want to add that we have a new city center. We are seeking commercial tenants. We are, I think, able to absorb any of these commercial tenants that potentially would, be asked by the airport to reconsider leasing. I think that they're not landlocked. I think it's important for us to really think about what our priority is and think about the whole picture. And I'm not willing to compromise the values and the principles that have been put into our comprehensive plan. I don't see that we are yet between a rock and a hard place.
Okay, so do we want to ask the public to see if they want to comment on,
I guess right now I would ask if Brandy needs any more guidance from from the
Okay.
task force.
Brandy?
Yep. So I'm going to be going back in and reworking the denial option based on your conversation tonight. I think we probably need to figure out before the meeting ends how you want to proceed forward. If you want to try to have another task force meeting prior to the next thing that's definitely on the agenda, and tell me if I'm not right about this, Kelsey, is the next meeting is tentatively blocked out for a community meeting, right?
Yes,
That would be April 7th.
that was
Yeah.
yes.
And that was because
So-
it would be 3 weeks, so it could be, there would be enough time to make sure there's plenty of public notification.
Yes, we've missed deadlines for the other paper and things like that to make
Yeah.
it possible to have anything earlier, much earlier than that.
So
I-
my question is more in terms of how you want to proceed as a group. If I draft something sort of early at the beginning of next week, how do you want to proceed on reviewing it? If you want further revisions prior to having the community meeting, because the community meeting, we need to have this recommendation out to get comment on it.
Okay, Isaac, your comment?
I guess the last bit was just a clarifying question. Do we have to, we have to get a final public comment on the final version, or can we revise after that
You
comment?
can still revise after.
Okay, so in that case, I think the most efficient thing, I would trust that Brandy's gonna capture our conversation tonight. And hopefully, I would think we could just do the public comment next, and then we can take a look at it, have it at the same time as the public, use the public comment to then revise it at the next meeting. And we'd have maybe probably one extra meeting in there for discussion if we needed to afterwards. So that makes sense to me, would be that we proceed with it. I don't know if we have to vote to proceed with denial and have that be presented to the public at the next meeting by Brandy, what she's laid out, or, you know, that's what makes the most sense to me. It seems like it's maybe a 5-1 here on denial. And it makes sense to me that that specific recommendation would be the one that's presented to the public at the next meeting.
I think it's important to note John's vote for defer. I think that's really important
I
to,
think I said 5-1.
yeah, but I
And
think it
also
wasn't,
Monica's being absent.
yeah. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm not counting.
Defer, Jen? You were saying defer.
Yeah, yeah.
You did say defer?
Yeah. So it feels like there's a strong majority in favor of denial, even without Monica. And so proceeding with the denial as the primary option for public to comment on seems like the most logical.
So we agree we should have Brandy rework the denial from what we've said tonight and try and get it to us as soon as possible so that we can take a look at it and be ready to.
Now, would we have any discussion about that at the next meeting, or would the next meeting be just public comment?
I was
The
suggesting.
way that Isaac was suggesting is that the next meeting would be approximately April 7th. It would be public comment, and then the meeting subsequent to that, which just roughly would be the 21st of April, if those days are all correct.
It is the 21st.
Yeah, and so that meeting would be when the task force both has the opportunity to comment or discuss what Brandy has written, but also integrate what the public has said on what Brandy has written.
Okay.
So there would be no opportunity between tonight and the next public comment session for this task force to further revise what Brandy is drafting.
I think that's fine. I think we're pretty in sync here, except for John. But
It seems to me we should have a vote, though, not just a.
Well, he
straw
noted our comprehensive plan. So I think that we are in sync with the comprehensive plan. I think that's really important. And that's the purpose of a comprehensive plan.
So we'll go ahead and take a vote.
I would make, so if someone would make a motion that for the task force to support Brandy working on the draft of the deny. It's not quite a vote to deny, it's to
Yes.
vote on the draft, for Brandy to work on that draft.
So I would motion that Brandy works on the draft for denial on the basis of our discussion here tonight, in preparation for a public comment at the next meeting, which I'm not going to give the date, but we discussed it 3 weeks from now.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed?
Yep.
Okay, so let us now look forward to see if any of our fellow citizens would like to make some comments on the presented policy options from tonight.
It looks like.
It looks like Mr. Jim Richards has been waiting patiently to speak to us. Please go ahead, Mr. Richards.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay,
all-
great. You may recall a couple of meetings ago where that was quite a task. I fear that in denying a major opportunity to have major positive benefit for the Chamberlain community may be missed or may be delayed. I do believe there may be a smart solution which could help very significantly with the acoustics up there at that end. And I myself have given this a lot of thought. I'm an MIT grad, and so I come at these technical issues naturally, lifetime engineer. I'm not an acoustics expert, but it does seem to me that there's some stuff that would be very much worth looking at. But I'd like to start, if I could, by Megan, if you could put up the slide that speaks to acreage.
First one. Kelsey's got it, and she's going to be doing that.
Okay, thank you very much. This is just a quick point. Tell me when it's up in front of you. Okay, so there we have some work that comes out of some efforts by Jimmy Lees, some efforts by myself, some contributions, a lot of discussions to try and figure out where these available parcels might be around the airport. Some of it comes from the master plan, some from sales ads and so forth. But it tried to just generally look at these areas as to whether they were likely to be developable for GA or not. And the net out here is, we look down at the bottom at 2 pie charts, and these show how the beta request stacks up against the other GA tenants, the other 20 or 30 of us. And so the only point I'm making here is that Beta's making some big requests, some very large requests, and they do drive questions about the health and forward-going vitality of the rest of GA at the airport. So that was my only point there, is really to have you see the order of magnitude of what we're talking about here with Beta's eventual likely takeover of the southeast end of the airport. So now, if we could go to the other graphic that I provided.
Did you get that one?
Yep, I'm just trying to make this bigger for the task force.
Yep. There we go. This one will be a little hard to see, I'm sure. But this is looking at about 1,000-foot acoustical barrier. In my own gut feeling for what goes on in the Chamberlain neighborhood acoustically, a lot of noise comes under the trees, right? Comes under that old growth, just comes right across at ground level. After all, the sources are at ground level a lot of the time. Given that Chamberlain's located at the north end of the runway, as you well know, that is the end that jets depart from in bad weather. You know, we have south winds during bad weather. They're departing into the wind, so they're departing from your end. And also when New York and Chicago are stacked up and so forth, they're having to sit out there and wait sometimes. And that bothers me even more than the F-35s. I mean, each of us would be affected differently, but to hear that incessant whining of those jet engines waiting to go drives me crazy down at the southeast end. And and that can go on for hours upon hours on a bad weather day, as many of you well know. So it seems to me that there'd be an opportunity to get a lot done here for everyone, to help GA have a place where it could get out from under the crunch at the southeast end, but also by very thoughtful design, consistent, I think, very much consistent with Brandy's drafting of option 3 and the criteria that she laid out there. I think you could almost fit those criteria as currently drafted, with maybe a few possible exceptions that were more in the details than in the concept. But this could be 1,000-foot long acoustical barrier that presents a very pleasant face to the community, low rise, potentially transparent, anything above 12-foot level. I think the community could have a fantastic input to what they wanted this to be. In effect, think of this as the new fence. Think of it as the new airport fence. but it's much better than a fence because it could be properly acoustically designed to stop a large amount of that ground level noise from coming across through there. And of course, the old growth upper stories of the trees help a lot when foliage is full on. In the winter, not so much. But in any case here, I think we could catch and deflect a lot of that noise skyward, and that's exactly what you want to do with it, right? You want to catch it and shoot it up into the sky where nobody has to listen to it. So that's basically it. I looked at Brandy's drafting, and I think that in her point number 1 of option 3, the 300-foot number could be a little problematic. Maybe not bad. Maybe if it was an average, it would work. Or maybe if there were some more discussion, but I think probably the need is to bring that in a couple of spots down to 200. But you'd keep all aircraft operations on the other side. So as opposed to anything you've seen from the airport previously, thoughts about how they might populate these areas with buildings, those drawings would have had airplanes through the area, right? And near the neighborhood and through the area. This concept does not do that. The airplanes are always on the other side of this massive sound barrier. So it's not only helping with what's currently going on, but it's any new airplane activity that would be up here because of this complex, which would be minor GA activity, would all be on the shielded side, away from the community. Then I looked at her point 2, Brandy's point 2, and access. I think something more than emergency access through the current perimeter would be necessary, but I think it could all be very reasonable and community friendly. I came up with 3 points: that there would probably need to be roadside access from possibly the end of Kirby as it exists today, where that in effect meets the fence. Access for private vehicles to go in to get to airplanes that were stored in this area, or to get to what would be the new location for the Burlington Technical Center. So some private vehicle access, limited. We're talking low traffic counts, low vehicle counts, counted on 2 hands, 3 hands, that sort of thing in a day's time. You'd need some like utility vehicle access. You might need the recycling truck to go in. And then you would need certain man access, man, woman, person access along the building front. I perceive this, that the community side of this 1,000 feet is the new airport perimeter, right? And so along that run, there's just no fence. This is the fence, the new fence, the decorative fence, the sound barrier. And it would need to have certain access through it. The students would need a door to go to school without having to go onto the airport. People coming in and out of my business, if I were the master tenant here, the GA sort of core business tenant here, as a low impact business, then I'd need a door. And I'll talk just for a second about parking. I did a quick thing on parking. No big details yet, but if it were my business or one like me that was the sort of anchor tenant here and was managing the complex, my business would need, let's say, 5 to 10 parking spots. The owners of the airplanes that might be stored here would need somewhere between 0 and 10, because you could have a policy that said when they went to fly their airplanes, they put their car inside the same hangar, and therefore they don't need a parking spot. And that's what a lot of them do now down in the Southeast.
So, Mr. Richards, can
Yes.
we ask Can we ask you to wrap up at this point?
Yes. So low impact, but I think my main point, I'd like to go right back to where I started. I think there's an opportunity for a major benefit to the Chamberlain neighborhood by letting this process run a little further before a hard decision to deny is taken. I would propose that option 3 be given some additional consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good
Can I
night.
ask him a question?
Sure.
Are the dimensions of the Burlington Technical Center based on any actual conceptual drawings?
Yes, the Burlington Technical Center considered a new building in the southeast 7 or 8 years ago. And so they did develop a set of numbers, and these are consistent. And this has been reviewed with the head of the technical center, and this is consistent with their thinking.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other questions? Okay, let's move ahead to our next agenda item, which is the approval for the meeting.
If there are any other members of the public.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak this evening? Please make yourselves known.
Ashley Adams.
Hi there. I'm just trying to turn my camera on and it's not responding, but I think I will go ahead and speak anyway. There we go. I actually changed my mind about speaking this evening after hearing what I thought were some very thoughtful comments on the part of the task force, and I felt very, very hopeful. And then following Jim Richards' comments and his proposal, this seemingly benign and nonetheless harmful to my tenants proposal, which would provide no benefit and would in fact provide resultant harm to this part of the community, I think I will speak. And since he was given, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, I'll get started here. I've spoken at these meetings previously, but I'd like to introduce myself again. My name is Ashley Adams, and together my father and I own a manufacturing business in South Burlington, as well as commercial and residential properties in South Burlington as well. I may not be the most obvious person to oppose this rezoning. I, in fact, have my private pilot license, and I have very fond memories of flying as a teenager out of the Burlington airport and working on my pilot license, which I really enjoyed. I did not oppose the huge helicopter facility directly across from our business. I did, however, oppose the F-35 because it is excruciating and it interferes with my business operations, and it impacts my health and well-being as well as the health and well-being of my tenants. And I also strongly oppose this zoning request. The plan that the airport provided, the ALP on page 6, I'd like to share if I could, Kelsey, would that be possible?
Yep, just let me set that up.
Okay.
That's the map that he's asking us to look at.
Yeah, you could share it, actually. It's page 6. It's the ALP. It's page 6 of the agenda for this evening.
Make it
Bigger, yeah, zoom in or something.
Yeah, you'll have to zoom in quite a bit to see those 11 acres. And I'm not actually seeing, okay, it looks like you're sharing now.
Just getting it up, so.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Let me know.
Yeah, if you could, whoops.
There we go.
So the 11 acres, if others can see my cursor, are,
Yep, no, that's fine. What I wanted to show, and if I had my own cursor to use, but I'm not sharing, so I can't do that. But if you look on Airport Parkway, directly across from those 11 acres, east of the intersection of Kirby Road, you'll see three buildings that start 3 lots away from that Kirby Road intersection. 2 of those buildings are our duplexes, and then there's another multifamily, a fourplex next to that.
can you see
And
my
they are
little
all,
cursor, Ashley?
pardon me?
Can you see the cursor? Am I in the right place?
No, you're not, Kelsey. Yeah, keep heading east. Yep, there we go.
Base belongs to the
A little bit, yeah, you got it right there. So the airport falsely indicates on this ALP that they own those properties, and they do not. As I think someone earlier in the meeting pointed out, that this is just not accurate. 2 of these multifamily homes belong to us. And the airport, if you were to scroll down into the key, you would see that they identify our properties as airport noise buffer. And according to the key, they plan to retain and convert them to airport noise buffer. That's how they label it, retain and convert them to airport noise buffer. These properties are not noise buffers. They are homes, and the residents living in them require open land noise buffers between them and airport operations, just as the airport suggests, and just as the comprehensive plan, as Megan so rightly pointed out earlier, envisions. And I just frankly find it absolutely appalling that the city is considering eliminating these noise buffers that even the airport acknowledges are needed between airport operations and this residential neighborhood. And I just, I need to, I think, simply reinforce all the good points that I heard earlier in the meeting and let you know that this is critical. These are human beings living in these homes. And I understand that Jim Richards had a very well-prepared presentation here and offered a lot of suggestions that may have sounded appealing. I think there is no evidence behind them. And I think that we're missing some of the most important points here if we consider something like that. And one of them is health and well-being. So I need to reiterate the points that I keep making in my letters, in my front porch forum posts, and I'm not going to go away. So thank you for hearing me out again this evening, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of your points earlier this evening as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who has not had an opportunity to speak who would like to jump in? Any little green lights?
No.
Okay. Shall we move forward? And the next agenda item is the minutes, the approval of the minutes from last meeting.
Yeah, there's just one line. I can go back and listen. I just didn't have the time, but I think there was some kind of elaboration of what I intended to say here on, it's page 23 of our packet. Ms. Emery said she couldn't see how they can get to green space and not have a lawsuit. I'm not sure that I was that definitive in that. I said that we should be concerned by it. We should certainly take that into consideration, that the city council would be taking that into consideration. But this sounds kind of definitive, and I don't remember holding that kind of definitive opinion.
So Kelsey, what's the process for?
So you have two options. You can either vote to not approve the minutes tonight, or you can vote to approve the minutes with the, with a change that would be made.
And I just did not have the time to go back and listen to, so if you want to hold off to the next meeting, I can go back and hear what I said. And if that's truly what I said, they shouldn't be changed. So
I'm fine with that.
If that's okay.
Okay, so will someone want to make a motion?
So I move that we take the minutes out of consideration of approval until our next meeting.
Okay.
And just for clarification, it would likely, would you want that to be at the next meeting that's set for a public comment session, or would you want it to be at the meeting after that? Because it can be, it's a quick motion that can occur at the end of public comment, or it can be taken up in the following.
Well, let's do it in the following then, so we can truly.
Could it be taken even before the public comment, since it's supposed to be?
No, because it needs to be another public meeing, so it's the same, you need to have a meeting like this to be able to do it. You can't do it, over email or something.
All right, I'm glad you know that. Thank you.
That's what I'm here for.
I'm glad you know that.
So
I'm sorry that you know that.
You don't want to know that, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we're done with minutes. Do we have any
We have to
other?
vote.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Taking it up at the
The second meeting in April.
second meeting in April. Thank you.
Do we have a date for that meeting?
It's the
21st.
21st.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay, other business. If anybody wants to suggest that I get these meetings to move along a little faster, now would be the time to bring that up.
Yeah, no, this is important stuff.
Okay, we don't have any other business?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adios.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.